Okay, so Laura,
Hello.
hello. Thank you so much coming to my show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to
Yeah,
be here.
yeah. You're my first female guest. I'm really happy to have you here. I'm super excited. And why don't we start the show by talking about yourself a little bit?
Sure.
And yeah, please.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be your first female
yeah,
guest.
thank you.
Very cool. So my name is Laura Just. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. I've lived in Amsterdam for 6 years. And I moved here just because I wanted to live in a more exciting city than Toronto. And so Amsterdam was between Berlin and Amsterdam, and I chose Amsterdam. And I am actually a certified sommelier by trade. I worked in high-end restaurants my whole life, both in Toronto and here in Amsterdam. And basically, I lost my job during COVID, and I had been wanting to transfer my skills and do something else, basically since I arrived in Amsterdam, since you don't make the same money in Horeca that you do in Toronto. So I was thinking of, my skill set and what exactly I could do. And of course, during the pandemic, there was a lot of focus on the Hauthunger, the skin hunger. This was very much like a focus in the media. People were starting to realize how much we need touch and just how fundamental it is to our overall well-being and health.
Yeah.
So then I had heard about professional cuddling years ago. I think around 2016 I first heard of it. And it only started in 2012, actually, so it's a very new industry. And then I was like, oh, maybe that's something I could do here. So I looked it up, and there was almost no one doing it in Netherlands. There was one other woman doing it, and since then, she has stopped doing it.
So you had basically no competition.
Yeah, I know, and it's just
in
one of
your
those
area.
things. It's one of those things where it's like, wow, how did I find this perfect, the middle of the Venn diagram of something that's needed, something that I'm good at, and something I can make money at. I found it, right?
Yeah, you definitely nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
It's zero competition.
Exactly. I'm like, whoa, this is too good to be true. So I started during, it's been almost 5 years. I started during September 2020. Of course, there's there was lots of educating I needed to do at first because platonic intimacy is not normal. People really can't wrap their head around the idea of this sort of intimate nature of intimate connection being platonic. Most people only associate cuddling with sexual or romantic intimacy.
Yeah.
So there was lots of educating I had to do. It was part-time at first, but now, almost 5 years later, it's my full-time job, and it's so fulfilling and so rewarding, and I'm very grateful to make the impact that my clients say that I do.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's super unorthodox for a lot of people. So I'm really curious about how do you conduct your intake and what types of clients do you have usually? How does it work, in a practical sense? So if you could explain us a little bit.
Of course. So, I see so many different types of people. Of course, there's just the people that one would expect, people who are just lonely and, they just need to get their touch needs met. Because touch is actually, from the minute we're born to the minute we die, touch is a fundamental human need.
Yeah.
People, again, conflate the touch often with sex, but we don't need sex, we need touch, right? So there are, just people
We also need sex.
we want sex, but as far as, actual, very fundamental need, it's actually the touch.
Okay. Okay.
But so I see people, who are, just single people who are lonely, people who are lacking community. That's a big one, actually, because in Amsterdam, of course, there's lots of expats who say many of them say they struggle to find community.
Yeah.
And then kind of what happens is you end up in this vicious cycle, because if you're lonely and, you just feel like crap, you're not really in the headspace, you don't really have the energy to go out and put yourself in the novel social situations that are required in order to meet new friends,
Yeah.
right? And so then, yeah, it just kind of becomes this like negative, self-fulfilling cycle. Like
Sure,
you need
sure.
friends, but you feel too crappy to go out and meet them.
Yeah.
So when those clients come to me, yeah, it's just like a boost of energy, a boost of like a nice, like socializing, oxytocin, just like confidence, just all the good stuff in order for them to feel better, and then they feel in the right mindset to put themselves in those social situations, and then they can meet the community that they're lacking, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a big one. People lacking community, people who are lonely. I see people who are processing difficult emotions or trauma.
Sure.
Yeah, like trauma
Sure. Break up, maybe.
Yeah. So that's actually a separate category. We'll get there. So yeah, people who have like trauma stored in their body. Basically, like I just provide like a safe, nurturing space where we can connect to our body, because basically cuddling will ground us in the body as well. So then they're able to connect to those emotions and then process them in a safe and healthy way, right?
Sure.
And then, so then people going through a breakup, this is a big one. Like if anyone is going through a breakup out there, like come to one session and you're good, I swear. So I call these people my relationship transitioners.
Yeah.
So these are, either people going through a breakup, a friend breakup, which is honestly more painful often. It's crazy. And then, of course, people experiencing grief, like if a loved one has passed away.
Absolutely.
I mean, just often in these situations, I mean, not only are we sad, but you kind of lose the relationship with yourself, like especially with a romantic breakup. You kind of lose yourself. So this can kind of just help you, like regain that connection with yourself and just provide a more clear path towards healing.
Yeah. But I'm a bit curious about this. Like when you have with your clients, do they really realize that's a platonic relationship? Like, do they really realize that, or just, oh, I'm really into it. Like, I don't know what's happening.
No.
Like, how do you, put your healthy boundary there?
You have to read my code of conduct. I'll give you the intake form.
Yeah.
No, so like it's very, very clear what it is. The boundaries are very clear. So I have a code of conduct, which people like they have to like agree on when it's on the intake form, and people need to like sign and agree to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so basically it's no touching where there would be like undergarments. So like 360 degrees here,
Okay.
and then like nipple area for everyone. Yeah. So, and then like, of course, and there's no kissing. Like,
Sorry, but I have to ask you, how do you cover your nipple area?
No. It just means like you're not touching the nipple area. Of course, no, everyone is covered because it's clothed. It's clothing only. Yeah.
That's not what I'm asking.
What do
But
you
when,
ask?
when you're hugging,
Yeah.
like your bodies are touching each other.
Yeah. So sorry. Okay, that's actually a good question. I just mean no touching like with the hands.
Oh, okay.
So the body, those parts of the body are actually in contact. Like for
Okay.
example, like if I'm like in a position like this, it's called the sweetheart. Yeah, if someone is cuddled up into me, my chest is like against their chest, for example. But again, I mean, we do that all the time when we hug our friends, right? Our chests touch. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So good question though. Like it's when I say like no touching, I just mean like with the hands, like very, very directly touching any areas that would be covered by undergarments. That's
Okay,
off
but
limits.
when you're hugging, like so it's just. But what I know about cuddling and hugging is kind of like you gotta use your hands to a certain degree.
Yeah. And so the hands though are usually going to be like on the back. Right. And so there's a lot of that's usually where the hands will fall is like the arms, the back, and then like a lot of my clients like that I play with their hair or like we scratch their head, and that's usually I'm taking the more like nurturing position. So my client will kind of be like cuddled up into me here, and then I have access to like their back and their head mostly.
Yeah.
That's usually where where the hands naturally fall in the position. Just think about when you hug a friend, right? Your hands are on their back.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like the boundaries are very clear. I have an intake form when people first get in touch. I send them the intake form. This is basically they tell me why they're coming for a session. And I'm just usually able to like this is my vetting process essentially because like you said, maybe someone doesn't understand like that it's platonic, right? But they read the code of conduct. So I make it very clear. What else do I say in it? Like no, there's like just nothing sexual will be encouraged. Like, for example, like, if there is any arousal,
Yeah.
it's not encouraged. We ignore it. No kissing,
Yeah.
like, and something like this. But anyway, I find with the intake form, usually if people are, the more specific they are, the more I realize that they understand it and they're approaching it as like like legitimate therapeutic modality, and that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I find I had to vet some people who, they're a bit more vague. They're like, oh, what do you offer? Or like I find when they're just like very sort of like vague about everything, then I kind of say like, just like this is 100% platonic.
Yeah.
Perhaps you are looking for a different type of intimacy.
Yeah.
But there's been a couple of people, like a few people I've had to weed out who are just like looking for something else.
Yeah.
But by the time they walk in my door, I have to say, knock on wood, I've never really had any issues. Like
that's
they are
great.
understanding, like they're understanding what it is.
That's really, really great to hear, because I'm thinking, so it's a fine line. I would say.
I mean, I feel lucky. I feel like I think I've said this before. Like, there's definitely a difference. I've done this in a few different countries. Like I mentioned, I'm from Canada, and I saw clients in Canada, and there's just like a clear difference in like the respect people have for boundaries here in Western Europe versus North America.
Oh, okay. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it has to do with the fact that sex work is legal here.
Yeah.
And everything is just very black and white.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no, like in Canada, it's a bit of a gray area.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's really, the laws in Ontario where I'm from, doesn't make any sense. You're allowed, as a woman, you're allowed to sell, but as like a John or like a guy, you're not allowed to buy. So it's like, doesn't make any sense. So what you see in North America in the cuddle industry is you actually have some sex workers using it as a guise, or you have, guys. So the clients, they kind of are like, oh, like, maybe I've gotten some extras from someone before. And so then they come to you and they're kind of maybe pushing the boundaries, being like, what can I get this time?
Yeah.
Here, that doesn't exist, of course, right? Because if you want to see a sex worker, you see a sex worker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's so black and white here, it keeps me safe, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm really happy that I heard from you, because so one of the things that I read on your website was the service of hugging online or cuddling online.
Right.
Tell us about that a little bit.
It's not so much, I mean, like, it's obviously not cuddling on a video call, but basically I created this. It's actually like a new service, and I created it for people who just like need support in between sessions. Right? So like I see clients regularly, maybe they're going through something and, their next session isn't until, a couple weeks, but they just need that emotional support, because a lot of what I do, like I'm not just laying there with my clients.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of emotional labor,
Exactly.
a lot
That's
of emotional
what I was going
support.
to ask next.
Yeah. And so basically, if a client who, it's mostly my regular clients, like I've never had someone who I never met before do this service. This is for my clients who we have a rapport, like they just need some support in between their session. And because, sometimes, I have my regular clients say, like I calm them down, like they feel more relaxed, like with my support. So that can be online if they're not able to, come to a session earlier or book a different session.
Yeah. So they just want to, hang out with you and,
Yeah, and
talk
so there are different like intimacy sort of like exercises we can do on the video chat. Like, for example, we can eye gaze. So this is an exercise that I do with my clients.
Yeah.
Very intimate. Like you literally, without talking, we just sit in front of each other, hold each other's hands, and stare into each other's eyes, like for minutes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's extremely intimate, and so this stuff like this can actually be done on the video call. But I'm honestly, it's actually not that popular of all the services I offer. Obviously the in real life ones are more popular, but again, it's just an option for people who need support in between.
Well, yeah, I'm also thinking, okay, so in a practical way, when you're with your client and you're cuddling, so if let's say you had a like really long session, 3-hour session, right? So you cannot cuddle all day long, 3 hours long. So like you must be talking about some stuff,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah. So they're like really opening up to you what their problems are and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, like almost always, like I see like this sort of trend. Like what happens is when of course when people feel safe and they feel like when it's sorry, let me say this. It's when basically the physical intimacy is present in the form of platonic cuddling.
Yeah.
The emotional intimacy tends to follow quite
Yeah.
quickly, right?
Yeah.
People just feel safe, they
Yeah.
feel comfortable,
Yeah.
and then it's just kind of like, bleh, it just comes,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Yeah.
and like, of course, in my clients know, like, I don't have like formal, I'm not like diagnosing anyone. I don't have formal psychiatric training.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't hesitate to call myself a therapist. Like my
Yeah.
clients are often, they're not only venting, but they often are, seeking my opinion. And I,
Yeah.
depending on what they're dealing with, I also have like a toolbox full of exercises and stuff and things to like break the session up. So it's not just, especially those 3-hour sessions, which is my longest session that I offer, especially with those sessions. It's good to break it up with, either, sometimes we just take a break, have some water. There's just different exercises we can do. Just today, like one of my clients, we did like a saying no exercise because it's just part of like, he had trouble with boundaries, and people pleasing and stuff. I'm like, all right, let's say no to each other. Like, let's just practice saying no. Right. And so there's all these, I'm pretty good at, just being able to sort of know maybe what exercise is going to fit and on the fly. And so, there's...
So that means like during these sessions, you're also like conducting a little bit psychologist as well, a little bit.
For sure, yeah, I would say so.
Right?
Like, I mean, again, like it's like everyone knows it's like it's not like totally formal, and I won't unless my clients are like seeking like my feedback or opinion. Most people just want to be seen and heard and told everything's going to be okay. And so like of course that's where it starts. And then they might ask me something and then I will get into it. But I don't just like I'm not just like offering an unsolicited advice or anything. Because honestly, so many people, like when they come at first anyway, they don't really want advice. They just again want to be held and just told everything's going to be okay.
Right.
Very simple but very profound.
Yeah, but that's again another thing, like fine line to deal with, because I'm thinking, okay, so like someone is opening up to you, and you created this bond, right? But and the client knows in the same time, like this is a what was it again? Platonic bond, right? So it's just a service, but in the same time you're opening up. Like, it's kind of like a mixture of everything, I would say.
Yeah.
So it must be a little bit hard to how do you deal with a lot of different emotions from different people? How do you manage that?
Well, honestly, good question. Sometimes I impress myself with my capacity, honestly, to take on these emotions. I have a large capacity to hold space for people. I'm very emotionally regulated myself and grounded myself, which I think is important. Like if you're going to do work like this, you yourself have to be good, like have done your work and whatnot. But it's funny. I always say like it's such a special relationship. I always say my clients, unlike other therapists or other people like doing work like this, I would say my clients exist in this beautiful sweet spot in between client and friend. Because not only, I mean, like the vulnerability it's a two-way street, which does like it is a genuine connection, like you said. But what makes it more like a friendship is I'm also like opening up. Like I open up to my clients. Of course, like I have professional boundaries. Like there's certain things I'm not going to talk about. But my client, like I talk about myself as well, and they want to know like that. I feel like that vulnerability, that emotional vulnerability, like it has to be a two-way street, because then otherwise then it's just like okay, it's like they're being open. It's almost like talking to, an
Yeah.
actual psychologist. It's like they're just sitting there. There's like the wall here, and then the client is just like spewing, right? But with this, it's like it's a flow. It's
No, you're right.
it's an exchange,
Yeah,
right?
it's an
And
exchange.
that's what makes them feel
Yeah.
comfortable. That's what makes it feel genuine. And it is.
Yeah.
It's completely genuine. Every client I have a genuine connection with, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's like, I'm just trying to think. Like it can be. Most clients have been good with like realizing that although it is like completely genuine, you know, it is still a professional relationship, of course.
And what if they don't realize it?
I mean, I'm trying to think if that's ever happened. Like I've had it happen so I'm very, very clear. Here's the thing. It's all about managing expectations, right?
Yeah.
And so I am very clear. Like I have a work phone and I actually prefer my clients contact me on WhatsApp. It's quick. It's more efficient for me, right? But I tell them, I'm like, look, I would love to know anytime you have feedback about the session, that helps me. That helps me help you. Like I can add it to my client notes if you have any feedback after a couple days, because usually it takes a couple days for like, usually when they leave my office, they're like, oh my God, what just happened? And so it takes like a day or two for it to settle, the session.
Exactly.
And so once it does, I encourage them to text me. But what has happened before is like, it's like maybe they start texting a little too much. But I'm very clear. I'm like, I am open to any texts that like, of course, that are like relevant, like for your care, like about the sessions. Yeah. And then I tell them straight up, like, I'm not always going to be able to respond. I will try to like react to them. But just know, like, we will address it in the next session.
Yeah.
And so, so like, I'm very clear. Like, again, I think I strike a pretty good balance because like, I'm not like, okay, no, we only have to like talk to each other via email. And like, I think it would be
not gonna
a bit strange for it to be too professional because it's so inherently personal.
Yeah.
The service,
exactly.
right? So
this
like
is what it
because of that, there does have to be this like, we're gonna chat on WhatsApp every once in a while. Like it truly is in between like a client and a friend, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if anyone like I've been pretty good at just being like I think no one's ever really gotten it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. In Amsterdam is such a place like with a lot of like highly educated people, and people know themselves in a pretty good sense, in my opinion. That's my observation so far.
Mm-hmm. And people also just have a respect for business here.
Yeah,
that's what I've noticed too. So it's like I think there's people who and okay, I'll say this: I have seen clients like for a coffee. Like outside of session because it's like, oh, maybe they're like a marketing expert and they're like, oh, like if you want any help with your marketing, let's have a coffee. I'm like, perfect, sure.
Why not?
So I have like, and again, I'm totally fine with that. But I feel like the Dutch and like people who live here, they have a respect for business.
Yeah.
So they're just like, this is your business.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like try to like get like just see you and like cuddle for free or like they kind of understand that like. And I think they have a good idea that, like, yes, this is genuine, but it's also a service, right? And so, luckily, again, knock on wood, luckily, I haven't had issues with people, like, really getting that wrong or getting.
Yeah, I'm really happy when you said it. It just proves again that people are really aware that
totally,
the real life and the services and the differentiation between that.
Exactly.
It's very cool to hear, like in a profession like this, even.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's awesome. So one of the things that I want to ask you is that, so you have the eye gazing service and the cuddling, and other than that, what did you have?
Well, no, so it's like it's not a separate service. Like I just have like a toolbox full of like different exercises depending on like if people like again there's different exercises if people need to work on setting boundaries, for example, and asking for what they want. There's something called the 3-minute game that I utilize. That's by it's based on a book by Dr. Betty Martin. It's called The Wheel of Consent. And so, it's basically exploring like different segments of touch. So basically, I won't get too into it, but when we're touching, we're either giving or receiving or taking or allowing. And so the 3-minute game is exploring this, and it really helps one learn what they like, learn what they don't like, as far as like, stating their own desires and boundaries. So because I have a lot of like people come who actually most of my female clients are people who they're people pleasers. Like they're struggling with the boundary thing,
Yeah,
right?
I can imagine.
So I would say that's probably usually the main intention from my female clients. Is they want to get better at stating boundaries. And it's extremely empowering to you know be in a space where you're not only practicing to state those boundaries, but they're respected. You know, that just gives you this sense of confidence that is extremely empowering. But yes, there's just different. I have like emotional intimacy cards. Like if people again want to work on the vulnerability, the emotional vulnerability. We can whip out the cards. But just different exercises that are all done within the customized session. So that's what I say on my website too. Everything is customized. So like I have you choose the time, 90 minutes, 2 hours, or 3 hours, and then I customize it based on your intentions and your needs.
Yeah, I'm also curious about the vulnerability thing, right? Like if a client is, wanting to have a session with you, there must be some sort of like, vulnerable side of to this person, right? So like how does it pop up during in this session? Like do they immediately, come close to you? Like how do you give that, subconscious message that, hey, like you relax here? Like I'm also trying to do that from time to time subconsciously. But like in your profession, it's very important, right? It's
definitely
just, like how can you make that message sent to you?
I mean, so this is something that like this is just always kind of come naturally for me. I know it's not like a good answer, not very like actionable like answer, but for me, like people say to me that they feel comfortable around me. I'm able to make people feel comfortable quite quickly. So because of that, of course, everyone is nervous when they first come. Like
exactly.
I think there's like been 5% of people are not nervous. Like 95% are nervous. But then of course like. We ease into it, of course. We talk about their intentions,
just
what brought them here. And then I think again, so they say there's something about my presence that is just like it feels safe. Not necessarily calm. I'm not actually, surprisingly, I'm not a calm person. I actually have like quite some energy, as maybe you can see. But they feel safe. They feel comfortable, right? Which is not the same thing as calm. And so by the time, usually it's about with a first-time client, it's about 10 minutes that we are, like easing into it, talking about the different models of consent, boundaries, etc. And then after that, of course, we go over the cuddle positions. Maybe they just want to sit side by side at first, maybe just back to back. So I also ease into it with the positions as well. They're not jumping into my arms the first position for a first-time client. With my regulars, yes, like they're just like right away, like right into it. But with my first-time clients, like we ease into it, and then usually. They usually feel comfortable to explore some of the more intimate positions. Because they just feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any clients during the intake, process? Did you ever feel like there's no way I can hug this person or cuddle with this person? It's impossible for me to do that. But you were like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. Like maybe your client ate garlic or whatever. I don't know. I'm making this up. Like, how do you manage that? I mean, there could be some, energy coming out of the people. You maybe from time like, you know what? No.
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, so basically, the only reason during the intake process, the only reason I would have the feeling like, oh, I can't cuddle with this person is if I know I kind of, have a sense that they're not looking for the platonic. They're looking for something more. By the time I see, but everyone I choose to see, I've never felt hesitation. I'm trying to think if I've ever felt... No, like there's never been anything where I'm like, oh, I can't cuddle with this person. I am also very comfortable with everyone. Like I'm and I think you kind of have to be not only comfortable with touch, but just like comfortable with different energies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I am. And I think I'm able to, I also have a pretty good hold on the session. Like
Yeah.
I am guiding the session very much so, right? Like of course the client's telling me what they want. It's customized for them. But I think I'm able to guide the energy well.
Yeah.
So it's never anything that's like off-putting or making me uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
it's never really happened.
No, what I see from you is that you have a lot of like a harmony in you.
Oh, that's
Like
nice to
you
hear.
can really mix with people, but in the same time, you have a really strong boundary as well. I
Totally.
can also feel that.
Yeah.
Like when you say no, it's a no.
Yeah,
There's
for
no
sure.
way. There's no way changing that. But
Yeah.
your harmonious energy is just. I can also feel that. Feel
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's like I'm able to, even if someone is maybe their energy is a little bit off or whatever, I'm also able to, again, just sort of shift that as
Yeah.
well, which is, so it makes it almost always a good experience for me. I really like, again, I know everyone is always asking, they're like, oh my God, like, give me the dirt. I'm like, I'm like never really, again, knock on wood, I've never had like some really
Oh, that's cool. That's
dramatic experiences.
That's really cool. And how can we reach you, by the way? Like, how can we find you online, let's say?
Yeah.
If you can tell us about that.
Of course, thanks for asking. So I'm on Instagram at Lekker Cuddles.
Uh-huh.
And
That's
then,
the name of your company
yes,
again?
sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, my company is called Lekker Cuddles.
Lekker Cuddles.
I'm like when I started, I'm like, what will attract Dutch people? And I'm just like, Lekker, let's call it Lekker Cuddles.
Yeah,
So,
it's a nice name.
yeah,
It's a cool name.
So anyway, Instagram at Lekker Cuddles. Website lekkercuddles.com, and through the website there's like a message function, and so if you are interested in a session, you can
Fill out
message
the
me
intake form,
exactly.
yeah.
And then also in my bio on Instagram there's also my WhatsApp number if you prefer to at me. That's also fine. And basically please like get in touch. Like I was saying, there's so many different reasons why my clients come to see me. I keep like discovering new reasons.
Yeah.
I have one client who's just like, it helps me with my productivity. Like he's able to just sort of like, again, get out of his like this like spinning kind of in his head and then just ground himself. And then he's like, yeah, my creativity is more clear. My thoughts are more clear.
Absolutely.
So I'm always learning about different reasons how this service is helping people. And just get in touch. And then I send the intake form. So it's a tiny bit of a process. Then I review the intake form, and then if it's a match,
If it's a match, let's go. And where do you have your sessions? In Amsterdam, I believe.
Yeah, so it's actually right by the Vandermattenweg metro station.
Okay.
So it's actually Duivendrecht. Technically, it's like right outside of the Amsterdam like city limits, but that's where my cozy office is, and it's really really cozy in there.
Yeah, and before we finish this episode, I also would like to hear about your opinions about the city.
Amsterdam?
So you're from Toronto originally.
Yeah.
So you live in this city for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's a very international city. It's a lovely city. So what are your opinions about it? It's like, what do you like? What don't you like generally?
Yeah, no. So like, I mean, whatever. The dislikes, I think everyone will say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like weather, food. For me, food, like, because Toronto is one of the best food cities in the world. And so like the food is not great here. But there's so much to love. Like, I think, honestly, the best part about living in Amsterdam is just this like, there is really, and I think, it's rooted probably in the Dutch tolerance, but there's just this freedom, like this chillness. Like if you, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you can basically do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just kind of, it's very live and let live. I also like how small it is. Like this is something, again, coming from Toronto, this is something that increased the quality of my life that I wasn't expecting to increase the quality of my life, which is just living somewhere small.
Yeah, but somehow it does, right?
You just save so much time. Like you just you can bike anywhere in like 20 minutes. If it's like over 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's like so far. But no, it's just like living somewhere small, just living somewhere like so well designed. Like the city planning is impeccable. The biking culture, I mean, it's, you're constantly active, like with the cycling.
Yeah.
So you constantly feel good and healthy. And and then there's also this like perfect balance between like, it's a metropolitan city, but then like, it's like a metropolitan village. Like it's also small. It's not too big. It's not too like bustling metropolis, like too crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so this balance is really nice. And every time, like, again, like, whatever, like anyone, I can be like, rah, 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 the weather. But then as soon as I'm gone, I'm like, I want to go back to Amsterdam.
Yeah, exactly. That's also what I'm feeling. Like, There are also a couple of things that I still cannot, cannot still change because I'm from, Istanbul.
Yeah.
And in Istanbul, you gotta be fast just to survive.
Yeah.
That's the rule. Like you gotta
Right.
act fast, move fast. Yeah, everything you need to be fast. So when I'm crossing, a crosswalk, I'm still, rushing
You're
myself.
still like rushing.
Like I'm like
Hilarious.
saying to myself, like, why do I do that? Everyone's just walking,
It's ingrained in you.
and I'm running, and I'm like, are you stupid? Just walk.
Give it a couple more years, you'll get there.
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, so I need to adapt a little bit,
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So yeah.
Nice.
So Laura, thank you so much coming to my show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
It was super nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And let's see each other later on.
Please, I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.